was fired to try and disperse the crowds.
More eyes are on women's football. What is next for the sport?
There aren't many experiences that can rival a mountain gorilla in its natural habitat.
Contrary to everything you've heard about blind people, I can actually see light and dark.
You do have to stay active with my disability.
A week ago it was the Irish Prime Minister, yesterday it was the Scottish First Minister, but Laura is a crumbled wreck confronted by Boris the Parrot.
There's always more to the story with our podcasts. Listen on BBC Sounds.
People are travelling again, heading back out on the road and rediscovering their wanderlust.
Exploring new destinations and cultures, making fresh friends and creating memories that will last a lifetime.
That's why at the Travel Show, we're expanding our horizons too. And wherever we go,
We want you to come with us. Now, that might make for an awful lot of excess baggage, but we think you're worth it.
The Travel Show. Watch now on BBC iPlayer.
Say play BBC News to most smart speakers and you'll get the latest headlines and in-depth reports on international, national and local stories that matter to you. For your news when you want it, just say play BBC News.
Good afternoon. The government has defended its sweeping range of tax cuts from criticism that they favour the better off. The Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng's package of measures includes scrapping the top rate of income tax for the highest earners and reducing the basic rate by a penny. Moves the government says will promote growth. The Institute for Fiscal Studies says the richest, who pay the most tax, will benefit the most from a cut. Our political correspondent, Helen Catt, reports.
It's an all-out attempt to grow the economy with the biggest tax cuts in 4 decades. At Spitalfields Market in East London, they're taking stock of a mini-budget that signalled a massive shift in political direction.
What do you make of moves like that, reversing the national insurance rise? Will that help, do you think?
I think it probably will help, yes, to a degree, but depends what bracket you're in, of course, in terms of income. So, yeah, I think it will help.
I mean, does that even touch the sides? I don't know. We'll see.
There is a lot to take in. The Treasury is cutting the basic rate of income tax from 20 pence to 19 pence from April next year. It's abolishing the 45 pence top tax rate for people who earn over £150,000, as well as reversing the national insurance rise from November, and cancelling a corporation tax rise planned for next year. Stamp duty will be scrapped below £250,000. The government will borrow to fund it, £234 billion this year. There is criticism from opposition politicians that those with the most are getting the most, or as Labour puts it, rewarding the already wealthy.
When you're lifting bankers' bonuses at the same time as saying that postal workers and rail workers can't have a decent pay rise, people can see that and see that as grossly unfair. And it looks like the Conservatives are looking after people at the top and are not really channeling that long-term investment, which is what our proposal is around long-term investment and around skills for the future.
Labour is about to start its annual conference in Liverpool and is likely to face calls to spell out what it would do. It says it will back reducing the basic rate of income tax, but oppose scrapping the 45 pence top rate. Ministers see the tax cuts as a tool to grow the economy for everyone.
We're not into the politics of envy, where we want to, deliberately penalise people who've been working hard. We want to cut taxes for everybody. And the danger, by the way, if you have tax rates that are too high for either companies or for individuals, you drive them away. Companies have a choice very often about where they locate. We want them to choose to locate here in the United Kingdom.
In the financial markets, the cost of borrowing for the UK government went up after the statement yesterday, and the pound fell to a 37-year low against the dollar. The new direction has been welcomed by some Conservative MPs, but others remain sceptical. It's now up to ministers to show it can deliver the goods. Helen Catt, BBC News.
And our business correspondent Mark Ashdown is here. Hi Mark, so could there be more tax changes to come?
Yeah, possibly. Look, day two is all about crunching the figures, isn't it? And as you heard there, broad consensus, higher earners are better off because of all this. But it's important to point out much of this falls on the policies of the previous government. Yesterday was really about reversing planned personal and corporate tax rises, giving people and businesses a bit more money back to hopefully invest and spend. Could there be more to come? One big policy, of course, previous government froze the rate, the threshold at which we all start paying basic rate of tax. That stands at £12,570. But with inflation high and that not going up, we're all a little bit worse off, disproportionately lower earners. Now, the senior Treasury Minister, Chris Philp, this morning hinted that could be looked at. Treasury insiders backed that up to me this morning, saying a wider review of all taxes is very much still on the table. We are expecting, of course, a full budget in the autumn. Huge tax cuts already then, but the Chancellor might not yet be done.
OK, thanks for that, Mark Ashdown there. Next, Ukrainians have reported armed soldiers going door to door in occupied parts of the country to collect votes for the self-styled referendums on joining Russia. The group of 7 wealthiest nations has condemned what it says are sham referendums in those regions on whether they want to join Russia. Our Ukraine correspondent, Hugo Bashega, is in Kyiv. Hugo.
Lewis, Ukraine says this vote is a farce and has no legitimacy. On Russian television, this is being reported as a free and fair process. Now, Western officials have dismissed this as a propaganda exercise. They say the result has already been decided by Moscow and that this is going to be used by Russia as an excuse to annex parts of Ukraine. The fear here is that Russia is going to say that these areas are now part of Russia and that any attack on those regions will be seen as an attack on Russian territory. Now, it's hard to get independent information from those areas. Some residents say that soldiers are going door to door, forcing people to vote. And in some towns, Ukrainian officials say that residents have been banned from leaving. Now, speaking to the BBC, the EU foreign policy chief said the threats being made by the Russian president should be taken seriously.
I don't want to spread alarm, but certainly it's a dangerous moment because the Russian army has been pushed into a corner, and knowing Putin, which reaction, threatening using nuclear arms, yes, it's very much worrisome.
And yesterday, President Biden said any annexation of territory would be a flagrant violation of international law, and he said Russia would pay a severe cost.
OK, thanks, Hugo. Russians are continuing to leave the country in their thousands following President Putin's announcement of mobilization of at least 300,000 extra troops last week. There's a queue more than 6 miles long at the border between Georgia and Russia as men attempt to avoid being called up. Officials in Finland say the number of Russians arriving there has more than doubled in the past week. Well, let's take a look at some of today's other news now. Iranian state media say 35 people have been killed after 8 nights of violence. Large crowds have clashed with riot police in several cities following the death of a 22-year-old Kurdish woman who'd been arrested for wearing her hijab in what was deemed an improper way.
But the sun's been quite fine. Well, I've wrote that song. Oh, it's for people.
So Elton John has performed at the White House at the invitation of President Biden and received the National Humanities Medal for his work with HIV charities. He declined previous invitations to play there from Mr. Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump. The performance was part of a celebration to honour nurses, teachers and emergency workers. Right, time now for the sport. Gavin Ramjohn is there. Hi, Gavin.
Yes, hi there, Lewis. Roger Federer said it was the perfect journey as he's brought down the curtain on his magnificent tennis career last night in the Laver Cup. The 20-time Grand Slam champion was given a farewell to remember at the O2, despite the loss in the doubles, teaming up with longtime rival Rafael Nadal. An emotional night for all. Our sports correspondent Laura Scott reports.
A raucous reception for the retiring Roger, the Swiss star who reimagined the sport and rewrote the record books for nearly a quarter of a century. For his 1,527th and final match, he got his wish, not battling his greatest rival Rafael Nadal from across the net, but sharing the same side of the court with him. Both in blue, both in bandanas, braced for something special, and so it proved to be. He was savouring this moment, and so were they.
They have had a one-on-one experience and know him.
Having not played in more than a year, there were signs of rust, but other moments of perfection without the practice, and ground strokes that looked like brushstrokes from this artist of the game. A fight back from the American pair foiled the fairy tale finale, the emotions of the ending clear to see, as one of the sporting greats was given the most sentimental of send-offs. Laura Scott, BBC News.
Oh, what scenes for Federer there. Now, England's women cricketers are playing for pride in their third one-day international against India at Lord's. They're 2 down in the 3-match series, but made a great start with the ball dismissing India's star player Harmanpreet Kaur for just 4. That was a 3rd wicket for Kate Cross. Freya Davies got a 4th wicket to leave India in real trouble. And a few moments ago, they were 110 for 6 in the 30th over. It's the end of season climax in Rugby League, and we could see history made in the Super League Grand Final. St Helens are the reigning champions and are looking to become the first side ever to win the Super League title for the 4th season in a row. But standing in their way at Old Trafford will be a resurgent Leeds Rhinos side.
You know, we could potentially cement our place as you know, the only team to win 4 in a row, which is a huge motivating factor for us. We could be in the conversation then of regarded as potentially the best Super League team ever, and you know, that's a huge credit to a lot of people and a lot of hard work that's gone on for a number of years.
Regardless of who's played, we've sort of just put our attention on today, whatever day that's been, and we've done okay with it. We've been pretty adaptable, and we don't make too much song about who's not playing, but trying to, you know, also acknowledge that the whole squad effort that's gone into getting to this point, and you know, a few have even moved on to other clubs during the season, but everyone's played a part.
And that is just about it from us, but plenty of football to keep across today as well. Northern Ireland play Kosovo and Scotland take on the Republic of Ireland in the Nations League. Plenty of build-up to those games on the BBC Sport website, and there's a big match in the Women's Super League with Arsenal hosting Tottenham in around 15 minutes' time. The game is live on BBC One straight after the news. Lewis, we'll see you soon.
Great stuff. Thanks, Gavin. Now, one lucky Euro Millions ticket from the UK has won £171 million in last night's draw. That jackpot winner is now richer than Adele or Ozzy Osbourne. The prize is the UK's 3rd largest ever, and just 16 UK players have won more than £100 million in the lottery's history. Now, you can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel and on the website. The next news on BBC One is at 20 to 6. Bye for now.